As soon as someone passes out and needs CPR, you'll see I'm not a doctor. So I started an organization called Gideon's Promise. It gets its name from a Supreme Court case called Gideon versus Wainwright. 51 years ago, the Supreme Court said that the vehicle necessary to ensure justice is the lawyer, and that we can't have equal justice, for poor people if poor people don't have the kinds of lawyers that you and I would pay for. And 51 years later, we couldn't be further from fulfilling that promise. All across this country, we have criminal justice systems that have set an embarrassingly low standard of justice for poor people. And I work with these incredibly young, passionate public defenders who go into the most challenging environments, and very quickly, the systems beat the passion out of them. And you see young people who mean well, but they either quit or they become resigned to the status quo because it's just too hard to fight against the forces that are telling people we need to process human beings in a world where we are incarcerating more people and resources are scarce. And so I work with these young lawyers really to try to inspire them to go into broken systems and force them to live up to their highest ideals. Really, at its core, what we're doing is teaching lawyers to practice with a purpose. I actually learned about Aaron Hurst when he wrote this book, The Purpose Economy. And it resonated with me so much because what Aaron was saying really was, it's not just people who are trying to go into incredibly challenging environments and make transformative change that need to live with a sense of purpose, but it's every single one of us. Every one of us, if we're going to have meaningful lives and meaningful careers, we have to find a sense of purpose. And what I really took from this book that was so amazing to me was that while we are working to try to build a movement of people to drive real systemic change, we can't do that if we don't inspire people to find what gives them purpose. Aaron Hurst is really a pioneer in terms of teaching us about what it means to find purpose in our lives. And I think the work he's doing is so important because young people, this millennial generation, right, they are going to be driven by what motivates them and gives them purpose. And I think people, if they want to have successful organizations and successful careers, they're going to have to listen to what Aaron is saying and recognize that really it is all about purpose. So it is such an honor. I came here from Atlanta because I'm so moved by what Aaron is doing, and I'm proud to be a small part of it. I want to introduce to you Aaron Hurst, who wrote this wonderful book, The Purpose Economy. Join me in welcoming Aaron.
That guy is so awesome. I mean, we just met, and I just met, and like he's already a hero to me. The work he's doing is so challenging, and he's doing it with such courage, purpose, and passion. So I'm honored to just be associated with your amazing work. I feel like I can't really talk after that. It's like so moving. Thank you for everything that you do. Thank you, folks, for coming out tonight to talk about the purpose economy. And I'm hoping spend maybe 20, 25 minutes talking about the book. I was going to read it out loud, but I figure you guys know how to read if you're at a bookstore. But instead, I just want to talk to you about some of the key themes that I'm finding resonate with folks and then have a discussion about it. So let me start with sort of how the book came to be. I have been studying sort of social change and change in our society, especially around the workplace, for over 12 years. And really started seeing some major changes happening overall in our workplace and in the economy. And my uncle, when he was at Stanford, was an economist and coined the term the information economy, and pointed to how in the 60s we'd actually moved from an industrial economy into an information economy. And it was interesting looking at what it was that actually were the signs that this change had happened, and also to start to understand how economies evolve over time. It was really new information to me. And the fact that basically for millions of years, we evolved, right, as animals, from apes to human beings. But one of the traits of Homo sapiens is that we're impatient bastards, right? We have no patience, and we weren't comfortable anymore with evolution and the pace that it was taking. We weren't willing to wait millions of more years. So we created the agrarian economy. And we learned how to manipulate and use the land, animals, et cetera, to extend our lifespan, quality of life. But that wasn't good enough yet either. So we hacked evolution again and created the industrial economy and learned how to be stronger, how to be able to manipulate huge amounts of material that we never would have been able to do just through normal evolution. But again, that wasn't enough. We wanted to get smarter, and we created the information economy so we could access and process more and more information. And what was interesting as you looked at this progression were two things to me. One was, it seemed so unlikely, if you look at this pattern, that the information economy would be the last economy in our history. It was very unlikely that all this innovation we see now, all this stuff that's written about in the papers, is the last stop on the train. Seemed like it was almost impossible. But it also seemed like as you looked at this evolution, natural evolution took millions of years. The agrarian economy lasted thousands of years. The industrial economy lasted hundreds. If you look at this pattern, it's unlikely the information economy would last more than a few dozen, and that we're actually likely only 10 to 20 years away from what the next economy will be in our history. Which as an entrepreneur is like an incredibly fun thought to think that all this change is going to happen again that we've seen recently around a new economy. And the question became, what is this next economy going to be? And I started looking around, and I again went to biology, and remembered how in biology it talked about, you can see mutations, right? You'll find a four-leaf clover, like a frog that looks a little weird, a tree that seems a little different than the other trees, and they're just mutations. But when you see all the frogs are changing, all the trees, all the birds, all the clovers are turning to four-leaf clovers, you realize it's actually a biological event that's occurring. There's a change overall to the ecosystem. And what I saw looking around was that things like the sharing economy, creative economy, the maker economy, all these things that people are pointing to, it was like pointing to a frog, a tree, a bird, things that were changing. And as you looked at, in this ecosystem, all these changes, the common thread was purpose, people's quest for purpose. And one of the biggest indicators, as Rap said, was around the millennial generation. And as you look at Maslow's hierarchy, I don't know how many of you remember Psych 101, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but it's a hierarchy, it's a triangle. And the basic idea is there are certain base needs, like the ability to have a place to sleep that's safe, ability to have food, that are major concerns. And then as you go up this hierarchy of needs, you start focusing on higher and higher order of magnitude needs. And if you looked at the evolution of our hacking of our own evolution, it actually lined up pretty nicely with what is going on, where you see each of these different economies are addressing each of these layers of Maslow's hierarchy. And as you look at the millennial generation, they define this next level of self-actualization around purpose. And if you talk to most millennials, especially those in innovation and are in professional class, they're not scared of where their bed is going to be tonight. They're not scared of where's their next meal going to come from. They're scared of a life without meaning, a life without purpose, a career without purpose. This is the thing that is driving them. And it's why we see such radical changes happening with this generation as they're really defining this next economy. So how did I come to this? I, since 2001, ran an organization called the Taproot Foundation. And our goal was to make sure every nonprofit in this country had access to the marketing, technology, HR, and strategy work that they needed to thrive. Because nonprofits need these, not just companies. And over 12 years, we built this out into a $15 billion marketplace, parallel to philanthropy, where philanthropy exists to give cash to nonprofits. We created a market, $15 billion market a year for pro bono work, parallel to philanthropy. But what caused me to leave Taproot and start my new company and write this book was a quote that I heard from just about every single professional we worked with, which is, the most rewarding work I do is my pro bono work, not my paycheck work. And at first, that was the reason I celebrated. I was like, that's awesome. We created Disneyland for work. This is amazing. But what caused me to leave is I realized that we had created Disneyland for work. We had created this rarefied experience while the rest of the work, when you go back from Disneyland, when you go back to the rest of your work, was falling so far short of its potential. And that work is fundamentally broken in our economy. And that it's not meeting our needs as human beings. And we needed a post-professional economy. We needed to find out a way to make this happen. So my new mantra, my new goal in my career is to make all work feel like pro bono work. To make sure that all work has that same purpose, that same incredible power as pro bono work. And there's no way in hell I'm going to achieve it. But those are the kind of goals I like to have, are ones that set the bar very high and to figure out how to do this. And the first thing I had to do is understand the research around what actually is purpose. And that's where I want to spend the next few minutes talking to you about what I realized about